This is the Sports Porch, Philadelphia, with your hosts, the Grand Schwabini, Rube, and me, your technical director. Come on, Philly, show us a little Eagles, Flyers, Phillies, and Sixers love. The Philadelphia Sports Porch starts now.
All right, welcome to the Philadelphia Sports Porch. It is Monday night, and you know what that means. It's time to talk all things Philly sports. I'm your technical director. Across from me in the studio is the Grand Schwabini. And below us on your screen is Rube, a lifelong Philly fan living in Texas. You're a little blurry there, Rube. What's going on with your camera?
Yeah.
Too much to drink today? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe your computer was imbibing before you got home from the office.
It's possible. There we go.
Gotta suffer through another one of these shows. Anyway, this is the Philadelphia Sports Porch. If you're watching us live all over the world on Facebook, YouTube, and X, you can subscribe on YouTube. Look down on the ticker right down there at Philadelphia Sports Porch. That's right. You can also follow us on TikTok, X, and Facebook, of course. What are we going to do? Well, page one this week, obviously the draft. The draft is over.
Yeah, it's the draft season.
Yes, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to grade the Eagles' overall draft, overall and by player, according to the Grand Schwabini. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the rest of the draft around the NFL. This was an interesting one.
It was.
If you didn't tune into our 4-hour marathon draft show the other night, boy, did you miss out. The counselor was getting drunker as the night went on. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, it never doesn't really sound like he speaks fluently, which is kind of odd for an attorney.
Yeah, well, I mean, by the end of the 4 hours, he was hammered.
I joined at the end, and I wasn't sure if he was being serious or what was going on, but he seems like an articulate guy.
He is an articulate guy. He was just hammered. And he takes everything seriously, a little way too seriously. Page 3, no fight in the Phightin Phils right now. What the hell is going on? And page 4, what we're watching. So, and you both have one. Rube and the Grand Schwabini has one. So take it away, Grand Schwabini.
Okay, so I'll save our overall.
Interesting.
We'll save the overall grade for the end, and we'll just go player by player. So why don't you put up those first round picks selected at number 31, trading up one spot just to make sure nobody jumps ahead of them, to select edge rusher / linebacker Jihad Campbell from Alabama. So Rube, we'll start off with you. Did you like this pick?
Yeah, I did like the pick. I think as I read more about him and the pick and why he slid, it sounds like there was a little bit of concern over the labrum. I guess he had his shoulder operated on. I trust that the Eagles have done their due diligence. He's likely going to play standing up as an outside linebacker because he's a little bit undersized for a defensive end. But listen, you can't go wrong with the pedigree as a linebacker coming out of Alabama. I think had there not been a shoulder injury, we never would have had a shot to get him. So I think great value at that pick, and hopefully he stays healthy and is an outside linebacker for years to come. He reminds me a little bit, if you look at him, he reminds me a little bit of Seth Joyner. I don't know why, but just looking at him. I give it an A-.
Yeah, I'm going to give it. I guess I'll give it an A- as well. I'm only giving it the minus because of the injury concern. But there's a lot of folks where they said, like, Mike Mayock had him going number 9 to the Saints in his mock draft. Howie said that he had him rated in the top 10, and a lot of people said they had him rated in the top 10. So him falling to 31, you would think that it's a steal. Just to give you an idea, last year with the Crimson Tide, he led the team with 117 tackles, 11.5 tackles for a loss, 5 sacks. For a linebacker, that's also good in coverage. That's pretty good. Also 3 fumble recoveries, 2 forced fumbles. So he's obviously playing at a great school. He ran a fast 40-yard dash. For a linebacker, it was the fourth fastest, 4.52. So yeah, there's very little to be unhappy with about this pick. And it does seem, when Howie was talking about him, they're kind of comparing him to like a Micah Parsons. And so I think that the idea is they're going to see if they want him to be maybe like 3/4 of the time playing edge and rushing opposite Nolan Smith. So yeah, I think a pretty good pick here. I'm happy with it.
What's with the number 11? Like, I know the Penn State linebacker, like Abdul Carter, were they 11 or 13? I don't remember what it was, but they all get these numbers. Like, is there something around number 11 at Alabama, or is it just like go to the best linebacker or something?
I'm not 100% on that, but one thing I do know is there are some teams where you can only get a single digit number if you're like given permission from like the coaching staff, like, so they think you're a special player, a captain type player. But I don't know about the 11 with Jihad. But yeah. So Chris, what do you think of the pick?
I give it an A.
Yeah.
I mean, this is classic Howie Roseman. They need an edge rusher. They've got an interior line. I mean, they were looking to replace some guys there. They rotate people in and out. But number one on the edge is they needed a guy that can make a difference. And, I think he's got the tools to make a difference. So I give it an A.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go on to pick number 2. That would be Andrew Mukaba. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Mukuba.
I'm doing my best here.
Mukuba.
I don't know my Zimbabwe names quite as well as I should.
Don't even know if that is a Zimbabwe.
It is Zimbabwe. Okay. Yes. So Andrew Mukaba.
Mukuba. Like Cuba, but Cuba.
Right. So
Mukuba.
So free safety out of Texas with the last pick in the second round. He is a little bit undersized. He ran a very fast 4.45 at the combine. Last year's statistics: 5 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, 69 tackles, and a forced fumble. So you can see what they're going for here. They're going for, a CJ Gardner-Johnson replacement. Now he's a rookie, so it's yet to be determined if he can live up to CJ Gardner-Johnson, who is able to do these things in the pros, right? So we shall see. Now, the interesting thing is, for whatever reason, I liked the idea of this pick, but I thought we might go for him in the third round. And so we take him with the last pick in the second round. And for some reason, that dissatisfies me. With one pick more, it's the third round. I don't know. For me, I was kind of in love with Xavier Watts, the safety out of Notre Dame, and he was still available at that time. That's kind of who I wanted. But look, tied for the lead in interceptions in the SEC last year. He's all, even though he's small, he is a big hitter. He basically laid out the quarterback of Georgia in that, I think, championship game. So he can really hit. So, hey, I think overall I like it. I'm going to give it a B+. So, Rube, what are your thoughts on Mubaka? I don't know. Mukuba. And Rube, you live in Texas. You follow the Hook'em Horns.
I live in Austin, Texas, and
you should know all about this guy.
I've seen him play a lot, and it's interesting. The first thing that comes to mind is he does lay a big lick. He lays a big hit, and every time I see him do it, I'm worried he's going to hurt himself just because he's so slight. And so, but he gets up and walks away and he does it again. And I just wonder, it makes me a little bit nervous that at some point it's going to start to, he's 20, 21 now, but is that going to be helpful, or is that going to hurt him in the long run? But listen, he's a ball hawk, right? He goes after the ball. He's breaking up passes. He's good cover. He's fast. And, I heard Howie talking the other day about the kind of guys they want to draft are people that can just react, because the speed is just so unbelievably fast, and people that can react in space. So, we saw CJGJ as good as he was for us, a little bit out of position sometimes. And this guy looks like he can play in the zone, and cover people. He can hit, but I think he's going to have to bulk up quite a bit, and I'm sure the Eagles have a plan to do it. In terms of where we took him, you and I were texting on draft night, and it felt just a little too early for me. I don't, like you. I thought there were other safeties to go and get, but I think you got to trust in Howie, and you got to trust that Vic Fangio knows what he's seeing. And if it was a little too early, fine. But I think he's a good piece to come in and play the safety position and join that room. I'd give it, just because I think it was too early, and I don't know how he's going to hold up to hitting in the NFL, I'd give it a C+.
Ooh, C+. That's kind of a knockdown, though.
Yeah.
Not even a B-. Interesting.
No, C+.
I mean, C+ kind of tells me you don't really believe in the player.
I don't believe he's going to be able to play the game he played at Texas and be on the field. I think he's going to be like Darius Slay, going on and off the field too often, unless he seriously bulks up. So I'm worried about that.
Okay.
All right. Well, I give it a B because of need.
Mm-hmm.
They needed a guy, and I think he could be the guy. I mean, all draft picks could be.
Yeah, we don't know.
You never know. It's just on first sight.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the third round, there's nobody. They traded out of the third round, collecting more picks. So I believe they started the day with 7 picks, I think, and ended up with 10. So they did a little bit of maneuvering. So I think they ended up with like 3 or 4 picks in the 4th round and like 3 in the 5th round. So let's go to the early 4th round pick, which is Ty Robinson, a defensive tackle out of Nebraska. Now, Rube, we'll start with you, but I'll give you a few stats on him. So Ty Robinson, he had the fastest 40-yard dash of any defensive tackle at 4.83. 60 career games, 47 starts, played in Nebraska, 134 total tackles, 26 and a half tackles for loss, 12 sacks. Now, 7 of them came last year, and 12 pass breakups. So he can really get his hand in the air and bat some of those passes down. He also, now I don't think we need him for this, but he also at Nebraska played fullback and played it on 8 plays, and 7 of the 8 plays, their running back was able to run behind him for a touchdown. That's
so no tush push. Get behind Ty Robinson.
A little extra there, but I really like this pick. But let's hear what you got to say.
I do too. I like it. I'll start with my grade. I'll give it an A-, just because it's too. I don't know. I like the way he looks. They'd say he's violent. They say, like you said, he knocks balls down because he's tall. He sacks the quarterback. He just seems like one of those high motor, do the dirty work type of guys that maybe you don't always hear about, but he is constantly in the middle of things. So I think he's going to be one of these guys we're going to be able to rotate on the interior defensive line to replace Milton Williams. And, the other thing I heard is that he also works out with Cam Jurgens. And and if he works out with Cam Jurgens, I'm pretty sure Cam Jurgens had insight into what type of player he is. Now, he played 6 years of college, so he's a little bit older. So there may be, some maturity and some extra miles on the body. But I think it's an A- pick. And the guy looks like a beast.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd give it an A- as well. I think that, first of all, the fact that he's the fastest defensive tackle in the draft. I mean, if you saw clips of him, I mean, he's an absolute monster. He looks like very similar to Jordan Davis. He's really big. And, it looks like, people try to run up the gut against him and he's just a brick wall. But then he's also got some pass rush experience. I actually think with him, being older might actually be a bonus. So, like, think about a guy like Milton Williams, right? Now, Milton Williams wasn't really great until this year. And this was his, fourth year, something like that. So this guy's coming in, and I feel like he reached, pretty close to his peak last year. Like, he finally put it all together in college. His last year of eligibility at Nebraska, and I think he's ready to come in and play from the word go. So I really like this one. TD.
I like this too. I think it's actually, I think he's probably worth higher than a 4th round pick, maybe a third, high third. And it's classic. You look at this draft and they're drafting defensive players. He should be plug and play with 6 years in college, playing for a program like Nebraska. And yes, he looks like Thor wearing a football uniform.
Right.
Right. He needs your hair, technical director, and he'd have the whole package.
Well, not everybody is blessed like this, but I have to say he is wearing a football helmet. He may have better hair than I do. So
no, I think I saw his interview, and he has buzz cut, I think.
Yeah, he does now.
But, yeah. Well, there's always hope. There's always hope. You could grow it out. All right. Who's next?
All right. The next guy we have is round 5 pick. Mac McWilliams, a cornerback out of Central Florida, UCF. There is Mac McWilliams. Now, I'll be honest here. This one surprised me. I didn't like this pick just simply because look, first of all, I'd never seen him play. But when I'm looking at draft boards, there were a lot of corners rated above this guy. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, like, why are we drafting this guy when there's like 10 corners rated higher than him? But then again, I'm also not, Howie Roseman, right? So probably the reason why they did draft him was he ran a 4.41 40-yard dash. So he was very fast. The Eagles put a lot of stock in the Senior Bowl, and apparently he was really, really good in the Senior Bowl. He can also do some punt returning. He did, average over 10 yards a punt return in college. But last year, or his career stats, 42 career games, 36 starts, 133 total tackles, 25 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. I mean, I think if he turns out to be a backup corner for us, I think then that's good. I'm kind of thinking of him as, best case scenario is he becomes an Avonte Maddox for us, which is just a average rotational corner. So I give this one a C. What do you say, Rube?
Yeah, I don't have much to add on what you said. Looks a bit undersized. When I was reading about him, they did say he played against some pretty good competition. You think UCF, but I think UCF's in the ACC now, or are they the ACC? They're in one of the big. Yeah, they're in either that or the Big 12. I forget.
Yeah, they do. They play Florida. They play Florida State.
Yeah, so they play good competition. Good cover skills. Just a bit undersized, and so will the speed and the athleticism make up for the another undersized defensive back, right? Him and Makuba. So I think they're putting a lot of value in speed and being able to work and be quick in open space.
Yeah,
I give it a. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. You give it a what?
Yeah, he's gonna. To your point about Avonte Maddox, I think they're gonna say he's gonna not necessarily be a corner. He'll play in the slot. I guess slot is a cornerback. I don't know much about him. So I gave it a B- because I think we do have some need to shore up our defensive backfield. So they took who they believe to be, someone that could fit into the slot.
The one thing that I did hear about him and the safety out of Texas, is, Vic Fangio is really emphatic about he wants his guys to be where they're supposed to be. And I think that's something that he didn't like about CJ, because CJ freelances. Yeah. And also, you can even look at, why did he not have Sidney Brown as a backup safety, but instead went to McCollum? Because McCollum is always where he's supposed to be. And, Sidney Brown plays with his hair on fire and he's out of position quite a bit and misses tackles. One thing I heard with the Texas safety and with Mac McWilliams is these guys are always where they're supposed to be. It doesn't mean that they're going to be where they're supposed to be and stop who they're dealing with. But I think that's something that, like, Fangio needs you to be where you're supposed to be, and they feel like these guys follow directions really well.
Yeah. Good football IQ. TD, what do you say?
I give it a B-, because, I mean, this is a depth pick, obviously, and he's got a little bit of utility to him, being able to run back punts, playing special teams, stuff like that. And again, what you just said, in any defense, you've got a coordinator who schemes defensively, and a big part of that scheme is when you call the defense, you play where you're supposed to be. You've got a better chance. I mean, very few players freelance, and not all the players that freelance are superstars,
right?
You know what I mean? So you need to have more players that are going to play the defense the way it's supposed to be played, to be where they're supposed to be. And so, for that reason, I actually, when you say there were 10 cornerbacks rated higher than him, but they know what they're doing, that's why I give it a B. They're willing to say, okay, these guys are rated on a lot of people's draft boards higher because of, these things.
Because they got long arms.
Yeah, right.
Or,
whatever. Everybody has a different rating system, but it's all the same at the same time. But as far as checking the boxes, this guy checks the biggest box for us right now, so that's why they took him. So I like the pick so far.
Okay, so
I like his name. I think he's in the B's for me because I like Mac Mick.
Yeah, he does have a good name. I'll agree with that.
Yep. Yeah. Already given him a nickname.
Okay, right, next up in round 5, as Howie says, it wouldn't be a Philadelphia Eagles draft without taking a defensive player from Georgia. So Samael Mondon, linebacker, Georgia. Just to tell you a little bit about him, 213 tackles, career, 17 and a half tackles for a loss, 8 sacks, tied for the quickest 10-yard split. Guy's fast, and apparently he matches up well with tight ends and can cover. So look, I think getting a guy like this in the 5th round, I like it. I mean, he looks to me like he's got an NFL body, and this is kind of one of those where I just kind of wonder, like, I don't even understand why a guy like this lasts this long. It's kind of hard to understand. Just kind of like, like TJ Edwards, the linebacker from Chicago, who played at a really high level for the Eagles. I mean, he went undrafted, and I was just like, why? I mean, he's got an NFL body, played for Nebraska, has tons of stats. No idea why. So I like it. I give this one, I'm going to give it a B+. What do you say, Rube?
First of all, I'd like to know how to say his first name. Is it Smile? Is it Smile? Is it? I don't know. We're gonna have to go to the.
It could be Smile.
We'll have to have our research department look into this.
Okay, you're the research department, so.
I agree. I think what this guy gives you is pedigree. I think he was their best linebacker on their last national championship team. He is someone who's not like the rest of our linebackers that actually likes to go back and play in coverage and is skilled at playing in coverage versus against the run. To your point about being able to cover up a tight end. And the other thing that I've read about him is that they use him as the spy. And who do we have as the next upcoming quarterback in the NFC East? someone who's going to need a spy in Mr. Daniels.
Yep.
So I think they're very. I like all of the above. I actually gave this, the only A I gave was this one.
Oh,
So I give it an A.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Rube and give it an A as well.
Okay.
I mean, I so far this draft, I mean, I'll just tell you guys right now, this draft for me, for the Eagles, was pretty good. It wasn't flashy, but it was pretty good. Who's next?
All right, next guy up, another 5th round pick, center Drew Kendall from Boston College. His father was a longtime NFL player for 13 seasons. He played 37 games at center. He tied for the second fastest short shuttle for offensive linemen. So, another fast guy here. Fits in a zone-heavy run scheme, so he likes to pull out and plow people downfield. Very good with combo blocks. Apparently, he's quick to latch on to defenders after snapping the ball, looks for work when he's uncovered. So it's one of those things, if all of a sudden, if there's a wrong assignment, he's rushing to go hit somebody. Now, of course, with a center, you just don't have a lot of stats.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
I think his stat was like last year, he only gave up 1 sack. So which is pretty good. So I like the pick just because I heard Howie Roseman talking about, he said, you really need a center as a backup. He said that, what happens is they go down to the Senior Bowl and they take all these guards and they have all these guards, line up at center and nobody can snap the ball well. This guy's basically done it for 4 years. So I think it's good. Now, look, we hope he never plays because we got Cam Jurgens at the center position. But, Cam Jurgens missed a game or two, got nicked up at the very end of the year. So, if you can play, I'd say the pick makes sense to me. So I'm going to give this one a B-, just because I don't know a heck of a lot about him. Rube?
He was a guard all the way up through college, and they had a need at Boston College for him to be a center, so he started playing center. So right there, good enough athlete that he could change positions and do it well. Son of it, but two of the guys we drafted were sons of ex-players who played a long time in the league. Good to have a primary backup for Jurgens. I don't want to see Landon Dickerson ever play center again if he doesn't have to,
Right.
because that would be problematic. So yeah, I guess it's good to have a backup center. Don't know much beyond that. I gave it a C+. I don't know if to your point, hopefully he'll never see the field. And will he be able to play like a swing guard position if he needs to? Going back to his experience, maybe. But I give it a C+.
I'm actually going to give this an A.
You like this one?
Yeah. And the reason I'm doing that is it's round 5. You're getting a backup center, a guy who can play guard, who's fast. And you can never have enough depth on the offensive line. You know that. I mean, the Eagles' offense is predicated on their offensive line being the best in the NFL. You've got a guy in Saquon behind him. If you give him holes, he's the best running back in the NFL. And then you've got those 2 receivers on the outside. And if somebody goes down, how many times has one guy gone down on the offensive line for a team that had promise, and that one guy has ended up being the linchpin that went from the offensive line being great to being mediocre, and now the season is in jeopardy. So I don't think you can have enough guys on the offensive line that can especially play multiple positions. If Cam Jurgens goes down, what happens? I mean, we could talk about the fact that he only missed 1 game or 2 games, but these guys, the chances of them being rolled up on, getting some sort of knee injury or hip injury during training camp, when they put the pads on, I can keep them out for a while. So I love this pick where it is. It's not, I don't think they got a superstar or a future starter or anything like that. I think at pick 168, that's why I give it an A.
All right. Okay. All right. So the next guy up in round 6, quarterback Kyle McCord, our first Syracuse quarterback drafted since Donovan McNabb.
Right.
Now, he actually played for Ohio State for 3 years, and I guess decided that he wasn't good enough to take the team to the national championship, but he was good enough at Syracuse to lead the entire NCAA in passing. So I guess at Ohio State, you just have a lot of good options, right? So essentially, he led the FBS in passing yards per game and set the ACC single season passing yards record, 4,779 yards last year. They say he's an effective point guard who spreads the ball around. 4 of the Syracuse receivers finished the season with more than 60 catches. He says, if there's some negatives, they say sometimes he locks onto the first option, but he can get through progressions and find the open man when his first option isn't there. Makes sound reads, gets the ball out quickly and run past options. His arm is strong enough to make every throw, and he has touch to drop the ball downfield. What Nick Sirianni said when he was asked about him was he said that he is very quick with his football decisions, and how he processes, the field as it unfolds. So, look, I don't know here. I mean, this essentially he is competing for QB3 with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR. It won't shock me at all if he wins that job. And, when we eventually trade Tanner McKee in a year or two, he might become QB2. So I think overall it's a good value pick here. You can never have enough quarterbacks. I mean, look, hasn't happened to the Eagles in a long time, knock on wood. But you never know. Sometimes teams are rolling out their third quarterback for the year, and this guy might be able to play. So I'm going to give this an A-. Rube?
C-. Couldn't hack it in Ohio State. How's he going to hack it in Philly? Next.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
excellent point,
on.
Rube. Excellent point. This is a budget thing.
Wait, hold on, though. What do you mean he couldn't hack it in Ohio State? I believe when he was quarterback there, they were probably ranked number 1.
I'm pretty sure they lost to Michigan however many years in a row to Harbaugh. 1. 2, I watched him play many games for Ohio State. And when anyone got to him or the game wasn't going well, he wasn't good. And to your point, why would he leave Ohio State with a national championship team?
Well, he had to. They told him they were going to go with the guy the Steelers drafted,
Will Howard,
to start. Will Howard to start. So he had to because he had to play
because they thought he wasn't good enough. This to me is a budget pick.
Yeah,
and it's because they've got the guy they paid, and they've got Tanner McKee, and now if he ends up being QB3, he's on a rookie deal. They don't need to be signing $4 million and $5 million backup quarterbacks. So so as far as grading this, I don't even know how to grade it because they don't need a quarterback and they don't need a backup. So this is a pass.
Quarterback factory. You got
quarterback factory. Tanner McKee, baby, pay the man his money.
Hey, what round did Tanner McKee go last year? That's right, 6th round.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. This is a pass for me. Did
Tanner McKee even get on the field at Ohio State?
Doesn't matter. Kyle McCord had to go from Ohio State to nothing Syracuse.
He did, you know what, Rube, in all defense of Mr. McCord.
He threw for 4,800 yards.
He did perform pretty well.
Listen, I'm giving my opinion, boys. You can have yours.
Yeah,
I'd C-, and I almost gave it a D.
You should know that you're entitled to your opinion around here unless it disagrees with Schwaber's opinion, and then you will get, mercilessly
I would say that
I stick behind my
Can you agree upon this? He is the Kirk Cousins of QB3.
I don't even know where you come up with that.
I can't agree with something I don't understand.
Kirk Cousins throws for all the yards in the world, never wins anything.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, is he Troy Smith? I mean, what other quarterbacks threw for a gazillion yards and turned out to be nothing?
Yeah, lots of
All
them.
right. Well, Angry Rube.
Not angry, just direct.
There you go.
Okay.
There is a difference.
Okay. All right.
Up next,
we have in the 6th round, Miles Hinton, a right tackle from Michigan. So basically, he had a slow short shuttle time of 4.96, which they said was concerning. He moves his feet better than his time suggests. He's a powerful run blocker and a defensive lineman off the ball who can engulf defenders in space. He gets his arms set. His arms are long. He has the big hands to latch on to pass blockers. This is another guy whose father was an NFL player. Rube, I'll let you give your grade on this one first, and I'll give my grade second.
Yeah, you usually hear about the big tackles coming out of the Big Ten, and I've never heard of this guy, and I don't think he really started performing well until he got older or saw the field particularly a lot. So I think this one is purely a developmental one to see if Stout U can turn this guy into reaching his potential. Being the son of a first-round pick, he's got the genes. So I'd give it a C. I don't know much about him, but coming from a good school that had good results, but I don't know much about him, so I can't tell.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a C minus. Of all the Eagles draft picks, this was the only one where I heard somebody say something that I found troubling. And what it was he was kind of down on his performance. And I believe he played at another school and then transferred to Michigan for his senior year, and said that when he was at Michigan, he then fell in love with football again. So to me, that kind of says, is the guy's heart really in it? Or is he just like, this is what he was born and bred to do because it's what his dad did and he's expected to do it. And well, hey, he's got the size for it, so he might as well. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about this one. I say C minus. I'm only not giving it a D grade because I do believe in Stoutland University. And you have to think that Stout sees something that's worth developing. Now, he doesn't develop everybody, but, I have to imagine if they took this guy in the 6th round, Stout thinks he could have something to work with.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, he is a large sample of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So that alone, another depth pick.
Yeah,
it's something that if through the off season, through minicamp, if they can start to develop his techniques, and he makes the team and he's on the bench, he's another large body on the offensive line in the event that they have to go deep into it during the season. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, now the next one in round 6. This is the offensive tackle that I like as a developmental piece, Cameron Williams. Cameron Williams, tackle from Texas. And Rube will hopefully we'll get some in-depth analysis here. From what I understand, Cameron Williams is only 21. I've heard that he came out into the draft probably earlier than he should have, that if he stayed in school another year, he might have been a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. So I always think that that's a positive. What it says on him is he's a developmental right tackle. That's where Lane Johnson's spot is, with intriguing tools. He's big and strong enough to wall off defenders and get some push in the run game. He's effective combo blocking to the 2nd level and engulfs defenders in space. He's not as polished as a pass blocker, but his arms are long, and he is quick enough to ride speed rushers past the quarterback. So he also said that he played this season with an injury that caused his heel to lock up and required surgery. So he was already moving well for his size. So he might move even better when fully healthy. So I kind of like this one. I'm going to give this one a B. Rube?
Yeah, I kind of like it too. They say there's a lot of concern about the pass protection. And when I saw Quinn Ewers on his rear end quite a bit this year, so I'm a little bit nervous about that. He's a 1-year starter. So apparently has a lot of work to do on his pass protection and footwork. Um, I like the fact, just in general, that we're looking at guys who can come in and play tackle and be developed because of the need to at some point replace Lane Johnson. So you'll notice that with the previous pick, this pick, and a guy we actually picked up as a undrafted free agent, this guy Pierce. So they're loading up on swing tackles, and so my guess is that there's potential in this kid. He obviously played at a big school, and is a big dude and is a good run blocker. So if they can teach him the pass blocking, I think it could be a good possibility for the future. So
Yeah.
I actually gave this pick a B because it's at this point it's really hard to tell. And he wasn't super flashy at Texas, but I think he's got the tools to be a good pro.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the thing here is like, let's be realistic about it. So Lane Johnson says he wants to play 2 or 3 more years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen? Let's say he plays 2 more years. So what's going to happen is 3 years from now, we're going to pick an offensive tackle in the first round to replace him, unless one of these 3 guys develops over that time and becomes a Mailata, a 7th round Pro Bowl player, right? So that's the idea here is we're loading up on these guys, with coming from quality programs with good measurables that need work, and let Stoutland go to work with these guys. And if we can find a gem, then when we have to replace Lane Johnson, we don't have to spend a first round pick on it.
Yeah, I like the pick too. Once again, loading up on the line. These guys, some of these guys 2 years from now are probably going to be starters. I mean, it's the formula that has worked for the Eagles. It's the formula that Howie Roseman's figured out. And there's, in talking about, and let's get our grades together, then talk about the rest of the NFL draft.
We have one more player left.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Another 6th round pick, Antoine Powell Ryland.
That's right. There we go.
You got him up?
Yeah, he's coming.
There he is. Yep. Outside linebacker, Virginia Tech. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to give this one an A-. This to me just screams he's going to be the guy late in the draft that becomes a stud for the Eagles when nobody expected it. And I'll tell you why. Comes from Virginia Tech, so he plays at a good school, in the ACC. The guy registered 16 sacks last year, tied for 2nd in the ACC, okay, and 3rd in all of college football. He's a 2-time ACC Defensive Lineman of the Week last year, became Virginia Tech's first player to eclipse double-digit sacks during a season since 2005.
Corey Simon, maybe?
Yeah, this guy's definitely got an NFL body. This is kind of like another one where I look at this guy and I'm like, how in the world are you getting him in the 6th round when he got 16 sacks last year playing for a good college football program? I think this guy's going to be the kind of sleeper of the bunch. What do you think, Rube?
Yeah, you took all my points. I can't believe the guy lasted this long. He had 16 sacks last year, 9.5 the year before. Well thought of. We need guys to get the quarterback. They have him as an outside linebacker, so not necessarily defensive end. So he's kind of like a Jihad Campbell position type of player, unless he puts his hand in the ground. But I'm like you. How do you argue with 25.5 sacks in 2 years?
Right.
So at a good school, it's not like he's playing at a nothing school. So I gave it a B plus because I don't know. I didn't want to give too many A's here, but this may be an A for Howie.
Yeah. I mean, I have that kind of value in the 6th round. Virginia Tech is a good program. It's just, it's not Texas. It's not Ohio State. It's not Penn State. It's not Michigan. It's not Florida. It's not whoever, so he flew under the radar and he looks like a quarterback hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So they might have gotten something special there. I'd give that pick. I give that pick an A just because it's the 6th round. I mean, what is everybody missing? That it might be one of those things where he ended up there and the Eagles were like, oh my God.
Well, you know what? I mean, look, I don't know this off the top of my head, but what I'm going to guess is a guy that has 16 sacks, who makes it to the 6th round, probably didn't run a fast 40.
Right.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but the road to the quarterback is like 8 yards, not 40.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. He probably, maybe his arm length is not as big as others, wingspan, it's probably a measurables thing.
Yeah.
But football players are football players, man.
Yep.
Maybe there's an injury there. Maybe he doesn't do anything but chase the quarterback, so he's not good against the run. You never know. I haven't read much up on him, but hey, we need him to get the quarterback. Let the other guys do the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my overall grade, I'm gonna give Howie and the Birds a B plus for this draft. I love the 1st round pick. I love the 1st, 4th round pick. I like the 2nd round pick, but I did think it was too early, and I'm not sure that Mac McWilliams was the guy to get at that stage of the game. So, and I like the vast majority of the developmental picks. But because of that, I don't feel like I don't feel like the 2nd round pick is a bona fide, no doubt about it, good starter. And I'm not sure about the corner either. So for that reason, I give him a B plus because I do love Jihad. I do love Ty, and I like a lot of the developmental options. Rube?
Got a couple of immediate starters, some good depth pieces in development. You're not going to hit on all. You're not going to hit on all picks every year, even if you are Howie. It was really interesting. No skill players at all. So they're building a lot of depth, and that's what championship teams do. But I think the thing that pulled this from an A to a B plus from in, I also gave it a B plus. Why no tight end? What are they going to do at tight end? So I was we talked about that for months. We thought that was going to be the first pick.
Yeah.
So I really wish they would have went and got maybe that guy Phightin from wherever he was, from Bowling Green or wherever he played.
Mm-hmm. Or I like that Taylor kid from LSU, Jason Taylor's son. Yeah.
So the thing that knocked it down for me was just the lack of a tight end, and we'll see how everybody else plays out. It's impossible, it's fun to grade a draft right after draft day, but you never really know until you're a year or two out.
And let's also face it too, I'm looking at a lot of the grades given out, and the Eagles get an A from a lot of folks, and it's just because it's Howie Roseman.
Right.
It's just because his last 4 drafts were unbelievable.
He's been on a heater.
Right. So it's kind of like, it's just the easy thing to say. Right.
But you never know. It's impossible.
I give him a B plus. I like the whole draft. I would give him an A if they, instead of drafting that quarterback, they would have drafted a tight end. But it's definitely the formula. It wasn't flashy, but they don't need that. It was mostly defense, almost all defense, except for the quarterback. And that's where in the last few years, 2 years ago, they really suffered on defense. And then this year they lost a couple guys. So
they got got some offensive players just along the line, right? They got a QB,
along the line.
Yeah.
a few offensive linemen.
Let me rephrase that. It's in the trenches is where this draft was, and that's
Mhm.
the Eagles know that that's where they're going to win, and they know that they have some guys that are coming up that are going to have to either be paid or going to be gone, or they're getting a little bit older and they get injured a lot. And once you start getting injured, we know what the wear and tear on the body does. So they're continuing that replenishment and getting in the habit of doing that, because even if this next year something happens, it doesn't mean that now you're not in an emergency situation where you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, a couple years ago, they were in an emergency situation for their offensive line. They had to do it. And they did it, but they set themselves back 2 or 3 years. This year should be the year that line, since it's all young, starts to really gel if they did it right. Big if. Defensive line, they had to draft defensive players this year. They had to. They had absolutely no choice. Whereas the Eagles, they are continually just kind of replenishing their back stock, so to speak. That's a grocery term for you people out there. They're replenishing their back stock so that they never run out.
Hey, speaking of backstock, Mr. Pittsburgh guy, Kenny Pickens is all of a sudden in a very full room in Cleveland. Is he going to make the team?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who's going to be? Who do you think QB 1, 2, and 3 are going to be on Cleveland? Since we're going to transition to rest of the league,
I think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders.
At QB1,
no doubt. Dion's already in the building. Yeah, that pick. This will be the only topic we do on the rest of the NFL, because we're coming up on an hour. We got to get to the Phillies and what we're watching. But the thing is that pick was so Cleveland. This guy Shedeur, and we can debate.
I think that was an owner's pick.
Yeah,
you could tell that the coach and the GM were like, "What the hell are we doing here?" They drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round. I know. Why would you draft another?
Trust in Jimmy Haslam. I had heard the Eagles were maybe thinking about it.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I'm sorry. We sat around all night talking about how we thought the Steelers would make that mistake, and they didn't, thank God. But that Shedeur Sanders falling that far, that was an obvious. He was blackballed because of his attitude and his dad. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. And Cleveland stepping in and saying, "We'll take you now," was just so Cleveland Browns.
And I also think that there's something to the fact that it wouldn't surprise me if the commissioner got on the phone with a few teams and said, "Hey, somebody want to end this? I need somebody to end this for me."
I don't know. I think Goodell stays away from that. I think if I'm him, I'm letting it ride, because the longer he's on the board, the more people are going to watch. Like, when is this idiot going to go? And I think he's going to end up starting for Cleveland. I don't care what the NFL experts say, because especially if he was an owner's pick and the owner said, "We're taking him now," the owner is going to say, "We're starting him," because what better way to put people in the stands than to have him? I mean, people went to see, Johnny Football play. They went to see him fail. They went to see him fail. They're going to go see Shedeur Sanders fail.
Well, he's going to have to light it up in the preseason if he's going to start.
I don't think so.
No, I think so.
I don't think he's going to start. We're going to have to move on.
Is not going to start. Pickett is not going to start.
Pickett might start.
Look, man, you roll Kenny Pickett out there, and the first game of the year for you is going to be like, you may have all the seats sold on paper, but you're going to have half the stands empty. Nobody wants to see Kenny Pickett play.
Well,
nobody wants to see Kenny Pickett.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. You don't need to talk about Kenny Pickett any longer.
Let's talk about something slightly better than that. The Phillies. What in the hell's going on? They lost 5 in a row. We talked about it. They did get swept by the Mets. Didn't you say that was going to happen, Rube?
I did a buy or sell, and I believe you all sold.
Yeah, we said they won. Me and Schwaber said they'd win at least one, and they didn't. And then they did take 2 or 3 from the Cubs. But 2 games under 500, 5-5 in their last 10. They just won those 2. They just started in.
Let's just real quickly give Lil Griffith a little love here. Big Eagles fan.
Yep.
He likes the draft. He says A++.
He's watching on YouTube. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, buddy.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, Steve DeFlitch. Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should know that name. Pickett.
Yeah.
Pickett.
That's
Yes.
All right. That's all we're talking about.
There was a sports personality on the radio here when Kenny Pickett was drafted and then George Pickens was drafted. He said Pickett to Pickens will be the next Montana to Rice. That was his prediction.
Not a good one.
That was his
Yeah,
prediction.
let's talk a little bit about the Phillies. I mean, listen,
So they did.
They had a
Well,
bad
here's
week.
the thing.
They had a bad week.
Let me say something first, Rube. And I'll set the stage for you.
Schwaber, you say something first. Go
I
ahead.
will set the stage for you. So just so everybody knows, because Chris didn't really finish it off. They had lost 5 games in a row, and I believe they were shut out in like 3 of them.
And they were only shut out in 1.
Okay.
I'm looking at the scores.
Hey, thanks for setting the stage for us, though. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Anyway, they looked horrible. And so the bottom line is I actually made the title No Phightin Phils. That was before they won last night, having won and taken the series in Chicago, winning 2 of the last 3. So they did show a little bit of fight. So I would say sometimes No Phightin Phils. So Rube, you take it from here.
Yeah. So, gosh, I couldn't even watch the Mets game that was nationally televised on, I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday, because they just look so listless. And the Mets have our number. Like, it's all of a sudden the Mets have our number. I was hoping that they would show up in Chicago, get on the road, get away from home, and start to pick it up. And they obviously laid an egg, and I think it was a rain delay game and bad weather. But listen, I'm going to go Posidelphia. I think Nola looked great last night. It was really, really, really encouraging for him to look like the Aaron Nola that we paid all the money to. The bats the game before came alive. Max Kepler, I think, is going to be my new favorite Philly if he continues to hit. But what was immensely frustrating was this Rojas guy's got to go. If you're a big leaguer and you can't lay down a freaking bunt 2 times in a row in critical situations last night, and you blow they called it an earned run on the the outfielding glove that should have been caught by one of them. You can't win a world. You can't win a World Series with that kind of incompetence at the back of your order. So if there's one thing and it was good to see Jordan Romano, get a 1-2-3 in the 10th last night. So I was nervous when they put him in, but
when they put him in, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they're not going to throw out Alvarado for another inning. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, but you know what? It was good for his confidence. He looked hyped. He went to shake hands with Bryce, but Bryce wasn't having any of it.
Bryce was just like, win a little more, you fool.
That's what you're supposed to do. So I thought our pitching looked great last night, beginning to end. But man, they got to score more runs more consistently.
Yeah. I'm not as down on Rojas as you are. I mean, he should have taken charge of that ball. But he also does make a lot of great plays in center field. And believe it or not, I think he's actually hitting like 289 or something.
Dude, he can't bunt twice in a row.
Well, but whose fault is that? They know at this point he can't bunt.
Well, yeah. Well, okay.
It was a stupid-ass play to ask him to bunt there,
Yeah, but shame on, how does a big league player not know how to bunt? I bet. Come on.
Well, I mean, welcome to the big leagues in the 2020s. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think fundamentals is lacking, and analytics has taken over for fundamentals. And you see a lot of teams making those decisions, and we could talk about that all night. But they need to teach these guys how to bunt. They need to teach them more fundamentals. That being said, the Phillies run differential, if we're going to talk about where the season is right now, is 0.
Really?
So they have scored 124 runs, more than the Mets, by the way, but they have given up 124 runs as well. The Mets have only given up 82. So their
counts.
pitching
It was-
is doing pretty well.
It was nice to see the Nationals take 2 of 3 from the Mets and do so in pretty exciting fashion. Did you see the score the other day?
No.
I think the Nationals were down 7-2 in the 7th, and they wound up winning 8-7. It was nice.
Yeah. So here we are with the Phillies at 15-13, 2 games over 500. Their run differential is 0. So I'm going to keep harping on this statistic as the year goes on, because the Mets run differential is plus 36. So
their pitching's been much better. Simple as that.
Pitching's been better, and our hitting's been inconsistent. Listen, we were the same team the first however many games of the 25, 30 games than we were the second half of last year.
Yep. So far,
something's got to change.
Yep. So far, what we are watching. Take it away, Schwaber.
Well, maybe you should do it this time, because
oh gosh, you want me to do everything? Okay.
Well, you do it so well, though. I vote for the Schwaber to do it.
There you go.
All right.
I look forward to this.
Well,
oops, sorry about that.
You may say, what is this? What is this? What are we watching?
My fault.
Well, I will tell you what we're watching now. There goes our technical director, a little trigger happy.
And I'm the blurry one.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
You say to yourself, we just finished that show. What should we watch now? And you know what? Nobody comes up with an idea. And so what then ensues? All right, let's take a look at Netflix. Let's take a look at Prime. Let's take a look at Apple TV Plus. Let's take a look at Max. And you keep looking and looking, and you can't find the show. Guess what? You don't have to do it anymore. We've done it for you. We are here for you to serve you. And we will tell you what to watch, and we will also tell you what not to watch if we watch something and we didn't like it. So you never have to go looking anywhere else. Just park your butt right here, and we will help guide your way.
Sounds great.
Let's start with Rube.
All right, Rube, you watched
The Recruit season 2, and I really enjoyed it. But gosh, there was so much time between the first one and the second one. I couldn't remember what the heck happened in the first one, and I was trying to explain it to Lemmer because she didn't watch the first one, and I'm just like, you just gotta watch it. And she really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed it. And what I really enjoyed about it is there was plenty of action. I mean, a lot of it was unbelievable. Like for those of you who haven't watched it, he's a lawyer. And he joins the FBI or the CIA, one of the intelligence agencies, and somehow or another, he goes from being just a lawyer to being operations in the field and getting himself in all sorts of trouble and saving the day type of deal. But what I really enjoy about this show, have either of you watched it?
I have. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
I love the guy, the other lawyer that hates him. He's just got a Schwab sense of humor and he's got a response for everything. And I find the humor that is feathered into the show it makes it just a little bit different than all the other spy shows with the hero that saves the day. So I think it was a really good watch. Lemmer gave it the Lemmer thumb of approval. And I think it was fun. The only thing I didn't like is too long in between seasons.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked it a lot. I think, unfortunately, I don't think it was renewed for season 3. And I think that's the reason why, because, the ratings were much lower season 2 compared to season 1. Well, like, what do you expect when you have 2 years in between? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I thought it was great. I think, I agree with you. It's just kind of like a more fun kind of spy story, because it's just like, it's just kind of like the dude thinks he's going to be a lawyer, and like they're just like, well, no, this is what you have to do now. And
they're all trying to kill each other.
Right,
hey, the backup plan. Thought this was about the birds. Hey, backup plan. We needed you to join the first hour of the show. This is our last segment. So
sorry, buddy.
Continue to tune in. We'd love
hit
to
the
have you.
subscribe button on that YouTube channel right there. Hit the subscribe button and the notifications. We go live every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
And you can catch the podcast.
Right after the show. Yes, most of the show was dedicated to the Eagles draft. Now we're doing some fun stuff. Okay, the Grand Schwabini watched. This looks interesting to me.
Yeah, Valley of Tears. It was an old one that I just sort of happened upon from 2020 on Max. It's a 4-episoder. And each episode, I believe, is like an hour 15, something like that. And it's about the Yom Kippur War. For those of you who don't know anything about it, it was the Syrians and the Egyptians planned a joint surprise attack on the holy day Yom Kippur on Israel, which did ultimately end with peace with Egypt and them getting the Sinai Peninsula and that kind of stuff. But it's really very war focused. It kind of focuses on the relationship between these 4 guys and how they went through the early days of the war. And it's really kind of interesting because there were things that I didn't even know went on there. Like I had no idea that how in the United States we had the Black Panthers, that movement. Mm-hmm. They had a Panthers movement there that was against the government. And I never even heard of that. And there was also kind of a really neat piece of war strategy in terms of how the Israelis were able to push back the Syrians, which I thought was really neat. So it's good. I mean, it's just kind of like a suspenseful kind of thing. It seems very real to me. I know it was done by somebody who was in the IDF. So yeah, it's definitely a good watch. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Probably your kind of thing if you like war stuff.
Yeah, it's not a documentary though.
Well,
is it?
Well, it's
a docudrama.
Yeah, it's based on true events that happened.
Gotcha.
But it's not. Yeah.
Any thoughts, Rube?
I'll go check it out. Seems like a winner. Haven't seen it. It's on Max.
Yeah, it's on Max.
And how many episodes?
3.
4.
4? Okay. Yeah, that's doable.
4 episodes.
All right.
There you go.
Cool.
Watching sports on YouTube at
Cass, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on X at Philly Porch. For the technical, I'm your technical director. For the Grand Schwabini and Rube, I am out. We'll see you next week, 6 p.m. Eastern.
See you next time. More Phillies next time.